Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pammy Out Loud. I'm your host, Pamela Walsh, and this podcast is about how do you find connections and share through the passions in your life. One of the ways that I do that is with my friends and family, and today I'm thrilled to be introducing to you one of my very longtime friends, Cass Grange. Cass is a financial advisor for Watercolor Financial in Austin, Texas, and we have a long and storied history, sister. So you're going to hear about some of the ways that Cass and I have connected through the years. And then today we're going to deep dive a little bit into this topic of aging in place, what to do as you get a little bit older, and how can you best prepare yourself for those moments as we transition into the final chapter of our lives, as we like to say. So greetings, Cass. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Pamela. It's good to see you.
Good. Okay, so Cass and I just want to say as a little primer, first met probably going on 30 years ago now, I would say. We raised our families in the same neighborhood in Austin, Texas. Our boys went to the same elementary school. We had lots of common friends, and we intersected our lives that way, but we didn't really get to be better friends until a little later on, all through the auspices of a diet and exercise program called Game On. Do you remember those days?
Yes. And what I remember is Pamela put it on her Facebook post. Are you interested in losing a little weight? And I was like laying in bed eating a cookie at the time. And I typed, I guess so, maybe, perhaps, I'll think about it. And she wrote back to me, I'll be right over. Give me $20 for the book. And like the doorbell rang 5 minutes later and Pamela was at the door and she said, you're on my team. I guess that's what I've always loved about you, Pamela. You're an activator. You get people together, and she got these teams of women together and we all dieted, and it was very fun.
We drank a lot of water.
Yeah, we drank a lot of water. We had a lot of habit a day.
Good habits, bad habits, trying to get rid of. But interestingly enough, it was because of this game that I really discovered how dependent I was on alcohol. And this was one of the really catalysts for me to decide I needed to make a change in my life. And Cass and I played this game, which is really a month-long program of all these different components. But I had not to drink. I couldn't drink for the month. And I was shocked at how much I was jonesing for a glass of wine. So anyway, after Cass saw me, we went through these, I don't know, how many different games did we play? Probably
I think 4 months worth. Yes.
Yeah. And like we'd take a break and then we'd do it again. And a few months would go by and we'd do it again. And
I need to do it.
But one of the things we discovered, so finally I decided I really ought to do something about my drinking. And I found Sober Sis, and at the same time, which was this 21-day change your relationship with alcohol. I was not intending on giving up my relationship with alcohol. I was going to change it, not eliminate it. But I signed up to do this, and Cass, as a support person in my life, said, "Hey, I will do it with you." And I will be forever grateful for that.
Oh, that is so nice. And we both got a lot out of that 21 days. And I am sort of ashamed to say the reason I did it was totally to cut the calories of the wine out. It wasn't I wasn't at a deep, dark place in my life. I was just like, it's all sugar. I gotta hit this. And
yeah, we talked about that, right? Like how, right. The alcohol has so much sugar in it. And then it also kind of loosened you up to let's get into the cheese and crackers or bread and other, you kind of pulled the plug on doing other things.
Right. After we did it, that I kind of got my evenings back. You've got a lot more energy if you don't have that glass or two of wine.
But we were going to do it for 21 days, and then both of us had a plan to go back to some form of moderation of drinking. And now here we are. That was November of 2019.
Correct.
And we both are sober cis alumni and have neither one taken any alcohol since that time.
Oh,
So, and that was never our plan, was it, sister?
no, but I think it was the right plan that evolved. And I think it is much easier to just quit than to moderate.
Absolutely.
That's my thinking. And we heard a lot of people who moderated and they didn't do that well. And I always thought, why would I think I'm exceptional? And in a way, this is why this topic interests me, because as a financial advisor, I'm working with people at different stages of their lives. And I've done this for almost 30 years. And I think it's the human condition that it's very hard to get our heads around the passage of time.
Yep.
And so nobody quite thinks they're the age that they're at.
Right.
And one of the reasons we don't is if our folks are still alive. And Pammy, that is you. Your folks are how old? They're 92?
90. They both had their 93rd birthday this summer. So
Wow.
they're still in their own home. So
And they're still in their own home. So
Yeah.
they're exceptional agers, which is so wonderful. But we might not be that exceptional. And we got to kind of think about that. So I came up with the topic, how not to act like your parents in old age, because I was down at the Texas beach with friends that I think it was 3 or 4 couples. And I noticed that we were no longer talking about our naughty kids and what they were doing. And then we weren't talking about the sullen teens anymore. And we weren't even talking about the college students. The whole weekend was about our parents and how they were behaving badly. And so it was the same type of thing. Can you beat this story? So one woman...
Tell me some of the stories that you...
Yeah, and then you'll know. Okay, one woman's mother was swindled out of $30,000 from a phone call, and she bought all these gift cards at Home Depot. And so that was tragic, but very, very common. More common than you think. We all could get swindled. We are not too young to get swindled, Pamela.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I just want to interject. Our oldest son, who's in finance, and they're getting ready to purchase a new home. He just received a wire transfer email from what looked to be his attorney, and because he was so trained in how to look for fraud and phishing alerts, he caught it. But it was one of those things that he said it looked so professional. And he said, I just realized my attorney doesn't use exclamation marks. And he realized through just his own awareness of the problem but you know how many people probably lose money. And that was a very trained 36-year-old, right?
Absolutely. Yes. No, it is fraud is very rampant, and we all should be on alert. Absolutely. So
what's another story you heard?
Another friend, her dad was so mad at her because she was trying to help her parents clean out their house, and she threw away his box of business cards from 30 years before. It went into a rage. And then another is the mother who is now at the assisted living, insisting that they take her back to her old house. And she's in a wheelchair and she can't get into the bathroom, but she said, well, you could get a porta potty from Walmart and then I could go through all my stuff.
Oh my gosh.
But wow. The one that won the contest that night was, the winning story was, one man's dad was in the hospital with pneumonia. Then they sent him on to rehab. And at midnight at rehab, he called his wife, and she was in her mid-80s, and said, you got to break me out of here. So she went to the rehab place at midnight, and they were ingenious because she didn't have a wheelchair and he couldn't walk. She brought the office chair from home, got him in the office chair, got him in their car, got him home to where he led for another year.
Wow.
So he won a story that night. Yeah.
For the losing.
For the losing. Because I think that illustrates that all the studies show most Americans want to age in place. And the studies show it's somewhere between 75% to 97% of Americans want to age in place. And it sounds so nice. You get to live at home and you die with your dog Lassie at the foot of your bed and your children surrounding you, and it's real cozy and you're in your sleep. But statistically, I think less than 5% of Americans really do die at home. There is a medical deal. They're in the assisted living, something happens. So it doesn't happen as often as people think. And the other reason I think it's really popular is it doesn't require anything. I want to age in place. Well, I'm here, I'm aging, I'm in place. So
what steps do you find that one of the things that you've shared with me through the years that I've really appreciated and learned a lot is I think a financial advisor frequently becomes part-time counselor, right? And you're coaching your clients through transitions in their life and how to be best prepared with them. And I'm sure they're looking to you do I have the money to do this? And
right.
So I want you to share some of your wisdom. What have you learned from these experiences, and how, is aging in place realistic? What does that look like?
That's a very good question. Is it realistic? Most homes in America, it is not realistic. If your bedroom is upstairs, like ours is, not realistic. Less than 30% of the homes have bedroom and bathroom on the first floor, in America. So I don't think that is very realistic. And then the other piece of that is that people say, well, I'll just hire help and stay home. But who are these people we're going to hire? That is a very, very hard thing to do. And generally, my clients think that they'll be able to hire that person or those people. But if you need the help, you're beyond really vetting, paying, managing people to come into your home.
Right.
Only if you've done it, you had to come in 10 years before and these people and you're expanding their hours, possibly that could work.
I can remember, I think you're making a good point. I can remember years ago, Brian's dad was starting to show some decline with regards to dementia. And Brian was worried about his mother and, helping, what should we do when and if dad reaches that point that he can't stay at home any longer. They were having those conversations. And his father didn't want to have anything to do with those conversations.
Right.
He was very annoyed by him. He didn't want him. And when Brian said, Dad, we need to talk about this because it's going to fall on Mom to do it. And he said, no. He said, we'll talk about it when I'm ready to talk about it. And he said, and Brian's like, well, when's that going to be? And he goes, well, I'll know when it's time to have those conversations.
Right.
Okay, nobody really wants to have that conversation. No. By the time, it was time to have that conversation.
Yes, it was more than time to have the conversation. And, inertia is a powerful force. And that plays into, I'm going to age in place. Then you don't have to do anything. Then you don't have to get rid of anything. Then you don't have to search for a new place to live. You don't have to put a deposit down. You don't have to be on a list. You don't have to think ahead. And the older we get, the more inertia we have. You have less and less energy as you get older. And so my clients, the number one thing they say to me when I talk to them about possibly moving, plan B, is, I'm not ready yet. And then I'll say, well, do you know when you'll be ready? Oh, yeah, I know. Did your mom know when she was ready? Well, that brings up a lot of emotion because, and I hate to say it, but that for those of us who have been married, are we kind of shocked at how our spouse kind of is acting like his parents? I mean, our parents are in our DNA. The best guess of how we're going to act is how our parents acted.
Right.
And if we didn't like how they acted, or we did like it, let's define what some of those traits were and kind of back up and how we can start some of that now. And one of the things I encourage my clients to do is start spending their money now on if you're going to stay in your house, okay, let's get some help. Let's hire the lawn guy and let's hire the cleaning lady, the cleaning man, the handyman, the handy lady, whoever these teams of people are to come in. And there's several reasons why I think that's important. One is it keeps your investment of your house up. And I don't know if you ever drive like through the far west neighborhood of Austin, you can just see that some of these people have, it's inertia. They haven't kept it up. These very expensive homes, you have to do work on them every year, inside and out. The second reason to hire people is so that you get used to having people in your home. It's positive. And it's somebody checking up on you. And I had a client say, I don't like to have people in my house. Nobody can clean my house as well as I can. Nobody can do the lawn as well as we can. And I said, you don't have any children? You don't have any kids in town? I have 2 words for you, and you're not going to like them. And they said, what's that? And I said, Gene Hackman.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, this was a recent conversation. And they said, well, he had a gardener. I said, yeah, who came in once a month, evidently. And so that's the other thing is that if you have hired people, they are checking on you. And gosh, if you hire somebody to start helping you at 60, 65, then you get to know them and their kids, and it can be another relationship.
One of the things that I would want, I know that something Brian and I always think about too. It's like, I always worry, am I going to have enough money to do that? Right. Should I be spending my money that way?
So that's another reason to have a financial advisor, because they can help you with that. And in general, the people who work with us absolutely have enough money. Often I hear, I want to leave the money to my children, and the adult children, if I can get them to come to the meeting, will say, no, please spend your money now on your life and helping you, because it helps the adult children. The sandwich generation of people who are raising kids like we used to in our old neighborhood, then they're taking care of their folks, they're busy. Then there's a whole nother group of sandwich generation where, like you, Pamela, you have your kids that you want to help with your grandchildren, and you have your parents. Mm-hmm. People are very busy, and many people think the solution is to call their daughter on speed dial and have her come over and fix it and do it, and their son-in-law. And I think that can really lead to resentment, and resentment is not good. And if our goal is to be remembered fondly, we got to try to stay away from things that cause resentment. And that would be one of them.
Okay, talk to me a bit about, this is the topic that I really want to delve into. And I think I want to do a whole show on it, but is on hanging on to stuff and the stuff that our parents think that are going to be your treasures that they're saving for you. And is that something that you've come across in your experience?
Yes. And first I'd say I have come across people who are very sad or bitter about the fight they've had with siblings over the stuff after mom and dad have died. And what happens is people are in terrible grief and there isn't anything left but the stuff. So then it kind of gets amplified and those old roles come back. So I would say that people should start giving their stuff away now. You and I, now, if your kids have any interest in anything of yours, take it off the wall and hand it to them. And, but my guess is, Pamela, that they won't. But if they do, that would be great. And so my advice to people is, if your grandson is moving to an apartment and needs a bedroom set, gosh, give him the one out of your back bedroom. That solves 2 problems. We don't have to move it later. And then he can get started. That second car, which we're going to talk about driving in a minute, cars are so expensive now. If the grandparents can gift the car to one of the grandchildren, that is a wonderful, wonderful way to help people start out in life. And as far as jewelry goes, I think that we should give our jewelry away, I think at about age 75, not our costume jewelry, but I'm talking the diamonds. Uh,
I have to interject for those of you that know that she loves her costume jewelry, and it's also very well known. Her trademark is her glasses. Her glasses, she has multiple pairs of glasses, and they always match her outfits. And, I'll show you a promo that'll feature how cute she looks right now with her matching blue glasses and her costume jewelry.
So, yeah, I don't even know if anybody will want my costume jewelry, but the point about the diamonds is what happens is mom says, well, honey, I want you to have my diamond. And then, 3 weeks later, in a little bit of dementia or Chardonnay haze, she says to her other daughter, honey, I'd like you to have my diamond. And then there is a big fight about it. I think it is better to give at the family reunion, Thanksgiving, why everybody is there to witness it. I'm going to give this to you and this to you.
I love that.
Another thing is we have to be realistic about our stuff. Do people really want it? And people are not realistic. Our parents' generation is not realistic about the Hummels, the long burger baskets.
Wait, I got a story I have to tell you.
Yeah.
One of the gifts of moving homes is that you do use it as an opportunity to pare down and get rid of things. And so we moved from our house of 25 years that we had raised our boys in to another house in Austin. And when we did, I'm surprised our attic hadn't caved in on us, because I had saved every single, if they blew their nose on the Kleenex tissue, it wasn't quite that bad.
Yeah, and I was ruthless and hadn't saved any of it. And of course, art awards, they're out of here. But
when I finally finished, I got down to this. I had a box for each of the three bins, right?
Yeah.
And so the next time they were there, I'm presenting them with their box of goodies, right?
Yes.
And at the time, Austin and his wife Kinsey are there, and this is before they had children. And their dogs, I have to point out, their dogs are very important to them. So that kind of features into the story. They have these beautiful little dogs, rescues, Tito and Lily. And so anyway, we're looking through the box of Austin's, and I hold up this little baby outfit, and I say, and this is the outfit that I brought you home from the hospital in. And my daughter-in-law looked at it and she goes, oh my gosh, that would look so cute on Tito.
Well, there you go.
And I will tell you though, at first my thought was, oh my gosh, what? But then I had this big realization that those are my memories. They're not their memories.
Yes, right.
And all this stuff that I was saving to give to them, they don't want.
Right. I'm afraid that is the reality of it. And if they do want it, like I said, give it to them. But another thing is that you have to be realistic. And the older generation thinks we'll have estate sales. And it took me 3 estate sale people to get somebody even interested in my mother-in-law's stuff.
Oh.
And then she said to me, what people are really interested in buying are 3 things: guns, gold, and real jewelry. They are not interested in dishes, which my mother-in-law had 6 sets of china, or crystal or silver. So
that's interesting.
It is interesting. And so then she really didn't want to do the sale. And I said to my husband, is the goal here to make money, or is the goal here to empty the house so that we can sell it? And he said, well, we need to sell the house. So I said, offer her a bigger cut from the estate sale. So we went 50-50 on it. And
when you say her, do you mean
the estate sale?
Not your mother-in-law, her.
And so my mother-in-law got 50%, and the estate sale lady got 50%. And I will give my mother-in-law credit. She didn't ask a lot of details about what did this sell and what did that sell for, because you have to just let it go. You can't think about it again. It's very painful, but my father went through the list from the auction when we sold the articles of things out of their house. And he said, he made me call the auctioneer and ask, why he didn't get paid for the refrigerator in the garage. And the auctioneer said that refrigerator was from 1950.
Uh-huh.
And my dad had stored cheap beer and earthworms in it. And the guy took it to the dump. He said I should have charged him for that.
That's awesome.
Talking about unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, I can remember
You have to let it go.
my aunt moved down to Texas to be with her daughters after living in the same house for over 50 years in Missouri. And same kind of thing. It's like, when you stay in the same place for that many years, things have a way of just, wherever you put them is where they stayed. You didn't get rid of them. And she wanted to have a garage sale. My aunt kept wanting to have a garage sale. And, she had, used towels that she wants to sell for, $5 each, well, you can go to Costco and get new ones for $5.
Right. And it's hard. It's very hard. Head around that. And if you've used your dining room table for 40 years, there's some value in all of those memories. It isn't going to be worth quite what you paid for in 1975 for it. I think having a garage sale is the hardest way to make money in America. That's just my opinion. It's very hard. And there isn't a lot of money in stuff unless you have gold guns or jewelry.
Gold guns or jewelry. Okay, that's good to know.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So the stuff is one thing, and then the cars are another.
Okay, talk about cars. You said that's an interesting topic.
It's a hot topic, and it's hot because in America we have to drive to do anything. And once you quit driving, your independence is gone unless you live in a very walkable neighborhood, which most people don't unless they live in a small town in New York City or Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very painful. But I was thinking about that today, and if I had to write myself a letter to read later, so that's one of my thoughts for people. Write yourself a letter on how you want to act. I think I'm going to tell myself to quit driving at 80 because my mother should have quit driving at 80, and she lived in a pretty small town in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
I at least should quit driving on I-35 at 80. Maybe I could stay in my neighborhood, but with the traffic the way it is, it's really scary. So we're preparing in 3 different ways. We each have Uber and Lyft on our phones. So when Tom and I go downtown, like to the Paramount, to date night, we use Uber or Lyft because a lot of older people say, well, I don't have that on my phone. So we already are doing it.
Well, and let me just say, that's an important step too, because not only like you said, you're learning to use it now.
Yes.
To expect that they're going to learn to use it, you're going to learn some new skill when you're 80 or 90. It's not as likely to happen.
Right. Right. You have to set yourself up for this now. Mm-hmm. And then, I could tell my husband didn't really want to do it. I'm like, no, we're going to do this now. And it was fine. And parking in downtown Austin, Texas is a nightmare. So it was great. It's great. And then there are buses. And then just writing down that number of when we'll quit. And in our neighborhood, there are many places you can walk to. So we are trying, as our doctors, dentists get older and start retiring, we're getting people close.
That's smart. That's very smart.
So yeah, trying not to have my doctor be 3 hours away. Yes.
Well, so one of the things that I'm hearing you say that we can start doing as 60-year-olds, 60 to 70-year-olds that will help the transition is start doing those things that we wish that our parents were doing.
Yes. Yes.
And we think like, oh, well, we'll do it anyway, but we won't if start doing it now.
Start doing it now. Hire the help now. Your dad should not ask you to get on a ladder, Pamela, because he shouldn't be on a ladder, and really you shouldn't be on a ladder. every emergency room doctor,
Andrew to get on the ladder.
yeah, every emergency room doctor would say nobody should really get on a ladder.
You want to know a tip that we learned, and I know a lot of people probably know this. This was something, it was a very hard transition for my parents. And that was, my dad has neuropathy and he falls very easily.
Yes.
He makes a joke and that he's pretty good at falling, and he does. He kind of knows to stop, drop, and roll. He knows how to get that lower center of gravity. What he didn't do was, that my parents didn't know, and maybe a lot of y'all don't know, that you can call 911 for fall assist. The fire department will call, actually, I don't know if it's 911 that you call it. It's probably another number, but the fire department will come do a fall assist will help you get off the ground. What we were dealing with was my mother trying to help my dad get off the ground.
Right.
And then inevitably ends up with both of them down, or my mother getting hurt in some other way. And so we actually had, my dad was worried, well, the fire department is going to come over with the fire engines roaring and create a ruckus. And my sister arranged it so the fire department came over and talked to them and explained, we won't come over with the sirens.
Right.
And they have now used that a couple of times, the fall assist.
That is a very good tip, the fall assist. So, yes, I think that's good. And to prepare ourselves, don't get on ladders. We hired the cleaning lady's daughter to help us pull the Christmas tree out of the attic last year and put it back. And never during any of that where she's shoving the Christmas tree down the little hole, because in Texas, you don't have a basement. You have this attic and this rickety ladder. Did I think, wow, we really could have done this ourselves. It is crazy. And she helped us put it up. It looked great. She needed the money. We had the money. It all was lovely. And those relationships are important, connecting.
That's exactly right. You're not only are you talking about having the physical labor of somebody else doing it, but the connection, like you said, people that are checking in on you, that you've cultivated through years. You're not trying to hire them when you're 85 or 90 years old.
No.
You've already had a long established relationship with them, and they can help you.
Right. Or their kids can help you. And it takes a village. And in a small town, if you live in the same place your whole life, you have it. But there are many, many people who move to where their adult children are, which is probably a smart idea. But your go-to cannot be, I'm going to call my son-in-law to help me with every project. It takes up all of his weekends.
Yeah.
And that causes resentment. And we decided we wanted our kids to remember us. Tom and I wrote down a few words that we wanted them to remember us as fun, generous, kind, and unselfish. But the reality of it is, your kids are going to remember how you acted in your last years of life. And some of us are going to get mental troubles where we might not act that great. So you want to front end load it and start being fun, generous, kind, and unselfish earlier. And hopefully you'll have those things hardwired in your brain, so you'll act that way. And because people remember how you were in your last years, your kids aren't going to remember what you were like when they were toddlers. I just don't think so.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about that you're so instrumental in, and that is Cass continues to participate in our Sober Sis community in leading. She facilitates a group in the Quest, which is another program from Sober Sis, where she is working with people, helping to support people that are caretakers for other people. So what advice, you're talking about how not to become our parents, but then what advice can you give us, Cass, what are some of the things, commonalities that you see in the women who you're dealing with, who are in the roles? Some of them are in roles caretaking husbands, and some of them are parents, and some of them even are adult children as well.
I think that for the women who are taking care of their husbands, there are several women whose husbands have Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, and how very isolating it is, and how lonely they feel has been very heartbreaking to hear. And I think that we need to be open and kind to people who, I thought after I heard this story, if there are people in our neighborhood where one of them has Alzheimer's, but the other doesn't, let's invite him over for dinner. Who cares if he repeats the story over and over again? We need to reach out to people because that could be us. And people with Alzheimer's want to connect. Just how tiring and isolating it can be.
One of the greatest gifts my mother-in-law said that she had was when my father-in-law was getting worse with his dementia. His group of golf buddies there was one of them that would still come by and pick him up, and they'd have lunch together on Tuesday afternoons after they had finished playing golf. Then his friend would come pick him up, and it gave my mother-in-law a break and also gave my father-in-law that sense of continuity, connection, and friendship.
Absolutely. It could happen to any of us. And I think the human nature is to try to look away, but we shouldn't. And there are resources out there, and join an online group would be another thing I would say to do, because some of these women have said, I just don't know what I would do without this group. It has really helped me. I feel heard. I feel like I can vent here without judgment, because people don't want to say, hey, I'm really sick of this. But that's the reality of it. It is hard.
That's very good. That's very important. Thank you for sharing that. Do you have any final tips or thoughts you'd like to share?
Let's see. Just the idea of to come up with plan B. I love plan B. I am a person who loves, okay, if this happens, we'll do this. And, and I kind of live for the future. That's how my mind works. That's why I like being a financial advisor. But I encourage people to pick the place out that you might move to. It doesn't mean you're going to do it. Okay, you can age in place. That can be your number one choice. But if you couldn't age in place, where would you go? And I already have the places in Austin that I would go to. And so I don't think people realize if you are looking to live in a nice place, like in Austin, Westminster is one of those places. People will say to me, well, I'll just go to Westminster. Like, it's really that easy. And
there's another one. What's the one that's out near Barton Creek?
Longhorn Village. So both of those are continuing care communities, which you have to pay an upfront fee to move to.
Right.
And you have to take a physical exam when you move in. You have to move in under your own power. The idea is you pay up front, you move into independent living. Then if you have to move to assisted living, it's not going to cost much more.
Right.
It's kind of almost like an insurance, but they have waiting lists, and it's 500,000 to over 1 million to get in. So to kind of say, well, I'll just move there is a little unrealistic. And the places that are 2-bedroom have the longest waiting list. So I had clients, no kids. We go to the place. It wasn't a continuing care community, but they had a waiting list, and you had to put $5,000 down. And I was kind of like the daughter they didn't have. And I said, look, I really think you ought to do it. Why don't you get out the checkbook? So I pushed, right, you can do that. Yeah. And that they would get back. So the years go by, and he called me up, and he didn't want to move there. And he said, Cass, our name is not going to come up on that list until after I die. And I wanted to say, well, you never wanted to move there anyway, so what difference does it make? But I said, well, anyway, he did die, and their names had not come up yet. But then within a few months, they called her. And I said to her, why don't we just go back and look at it one more time? You don't have to move there. Just see what you think, because it's been 5 years. So we went and looked at it, and I thought she was going to say, I'm not ready, because she was in much better shape than her husband. And she said, I think I'm going to do it. And I was very surprised. So she moved in and got the 2-bedroom on the corner. See, that's why it took so long, because she had the money to pay for the nice one.
Mm-hmm.
And why not if you have the money? And she said to me, well, it's not bad. And then she called me up after the last hailstorm in Austin and said, I'm so glad I didn't have to worry about my roof. My house. I mean, owning a house is a big, hairy deal. There's a lot to take care of. So having that plan B, I think, is a good idea. It doesn't mean you have to do it today, but to go and tour and just know and maybe put your name on a list, because you can always say, I'm not ready yet. And then they'll keep your name on the list.
Well, and, another example of that is just in the simple aspect of getting a will done, right?
Yes.
I know people, particularly when we were raising our children, that struggled with doing a will because they didn't want to pick somebody to be the guardian of their children.
Right.
You pick all this stuff. And I remember when we had a really awesome attorney in Austin who helped Brian and I. And one of the things is she kept saying to us, you can always change it.
You can always change your mind. Yes.
Like
right.
Something is better than nothing. You
right.
don't
let perfect be the enemy of the good. That is such good advice. And that is true about so many things.
Right. So just start with something. Like, okay, start today, and we can change this plan in 5 years or in 10 years or next year, if we need to.
But 60% of Americans die without wills. And the last time I checked, 100% of us are going to die. Nobody gets out of here alive. I'm sorry to break it to people.
I just watched this documentary on Netflix about this guy that's trying to live forever. Like it's the weirdest thing. He's a multimillionaire, and he's doing, like, he's got all this lab stuff, and he's reversed aging 5 years on himself. Right. But it was crazy watching this. Yeah, you're right. We're all going to die.
Well, and one last tip is, and Pamela will totally before this, is, my folks were in the retirement home for 9 years. And, you spend a lot of time there when you go and visit them. And I thought, I got to get better at some games. I got to know some hobbies here. And so I had a friend whose mother was at the Triangle Retirement Center in Austin, and she taught people how to play Mahjong. I said, let's have her teach us. So Mahjong, and so she taught us at the Triangle, and of course they have a lot of nice square tables there, and it's lovely. And then my friend Pamela asked me if I would teach her how to play Mahjong, and I said, if I do, you're going to become a maniac. You're going to become a Mahjong maniac. And I apologized to your husband the first day, and he said, Cass, I'm sure she's already ordered a set.
And he was right.
He was right. But hobbies. Hobbies are important.
Cass came over, and that's funny you say that, because I tried to get my mom to teach me how to play bridge, and she wouldn't do it. And I thought, shit, I need something in my old age.
Yeah,
I better learn something. But I remember going to an assisted living with Susie Klein one day, and there were these women playing Mahjong, and it really caught my eye. So I am forever grateful to you and Susan Phillips for teaching Sandy, my sister Sandra, and I how to play, because you got both of us. And I remember that day you said, oh, before she know it, she'll be teaching and playing in tournaments. And
right. And the next day I look on Facebook, and there you are weighing in on obscure Mahjong rules. But hobbies are really important, and we are not going to be able to play golf or go hunting until we're 90. So you got to come up with a few other ideas too.
How's that working? Is Tom doing a better job at it? Brian is still hooked into just golf. His mother keeps saying, you have to come up with another hobby besides golf, Brian.
Tom is playing the guitar and taking guitar lessons. Another thing that's very good for your brain is playing music, listening to music, playing games, playing Mahjong, connecting with other people. So it was great to connect with you tonight.
It's great to connect with you. And on that note, we're going to wrap this up. Cass has a little legalese verbiage for you.
Views expressed during this podcast are given in a personal capacity and are provided for general information and educational purposes only. They do not necessarily reflect the views of Watercolor Financial. Cass Grange is participating in this podcast without compensation, and the topics discussed are not related to investment advisory services. Listeners should not interpret the discussion as investment advice or recommendations specific to their financial situation. For personalized investment advice, please consult a qualified investment professional.
Yeah,
Pamela.
I got that. Thank you very, very much. And that little compensation will look in the form of a mahjong game for us.
All right. That sounds just
back to Austin when I get back to Austin.
And, I think that...
Where are you, by the way? You are not in Austin, are you?
No, we're in Santa Barbara, California, having a wonderful time, and I'm working online. But I just want to say that if there was ever anybody who should have a podcast, it's Pamela Walsh. I'm glad you're doing this.
Well, I am so grateful to you, Cass, and you have been such a gift to me through the years. I've always said if this financial stuff didn't work out, you should be a stand-up comedian. You always make me laugh. And I've got so many wonderful memories of you, and I appreciate your advice and your wisdom, and most of all, your friendship. So
same back to you, Pamela.
Okay, you guys have a great time in Santa Barbara, and I'll catch you down south in Austin, Texas.
All right. Okay.
Thanks for joining us. Remember, keep speaking your voice out loud, because grit in your teeth gives you TMJ. Peace out, everybody.